The NBA offseason never truly stops, and for players on the fringe of the league, every passing week carries enormous weight. While the Golden State Warriors have been making headlines chasing marquee free agents and reshaping their roster for the 2026-27 season, one former player is waging a quieter, more personal battle, the fight to remain in the league at all. Hey, what's up everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do. And honestly, the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes this further. So hit it now. Lindy Waters III, the 6th-year guard who spent time with the Warriors during the 2024-25 season, is currently on the open market with no guaranteed contract in hand. His situation is a familiar one in professional basketball player with undeniable skill sets but steadily shrinking opportunities, caught in the difficult space between being good enough for the NBA and being young enough, or prominent enough, to be prioritized over emerging talent. Waters was never a headline piece in Golden State's plans. He arrived as part of a convoluted series of trades that ultimately sent Quinton Post back to the organization, and from the start his role was modest at best. Over 38 games with the Warriors, he averaged 5.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 1.1 assists per game. The numbers were not spectacular, but they told the story of a player who was genuinely trying to carve out a niche as a 3-and-D contributor, the type of player every NBA team needs in their rotation. His efficiency from the field left something to be desired during that stretch, but there were flashes of what he could provide when given consistent minutes and a clear role. Golden State was a team in transition at that point, still trying to figure out their rotational hierarchy before the Jimmy Butler trade reshuffled everything. When that Butler deal went through, Waters was included in the move, landing with the Detroit Pistons. His opportunities there were minimal, just 8.8 minutes per game across a brief stint that did little to build his case for a long-term roster spot. Last offseason, Waters signed a guaranteed contract with the San Antonio Spurs, which represented a real opportunity for him to re-establish himself. The Spurs, a team committed to their youth movement around Victor Wembanyama, were not exactly the ideal landing spot for a veteran trying to earn expanded playing time. Waters averaged just 7.1 minutes per game in San Antonio, another step backward in a career that has seen opportunities shrink with each passing season. His NBA journey started with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he initially showed promise as an undrafted player competing for a roster spot. However, across his 3 seasons in Oklahoma City, his playing time declined significantly, and his production dipped along with it. That trajectory, solid moments followed by diminishing returns, has defined his career arc. Now entering his 7th professional offseason, Waters finds himself at a crossroads that many role players face in their late 20s. The NBA is a league that constantly churns through talent, and there is always a new wave of players ready to take roster spots away from veterans who cannot provide something unique and irreplaceable. For Waters, the question is whether he can convince a team that his value as a reliable 3-and-D wing outweighs the opportunity cost of carrying him on the roster. He is exactly the type of player teams target late in the offseason, a veteran minimum option who brings professional experience, positional versatility, and a willingness to play within a system. Whether he returns to San Antonio or finds interest elsewhere, Waters must fight through the uncertainty that defines the final weeks of any NBA offseason. Most teams have already filled the bulk of their roster spots with their priority signings. What remains are the minimum contract slots, and competition for those positions is fierce. Even if Waters lands a contract this summer, his situation will not change dramatically. He will need to outperform expectations every night, prove he belongs, and hope that a young draft pick or a veteran with higher upside does not push him further down the depth chart. The NBA is not a sentimental business. Players are evaluated on what they can provide right now, and for Waters, proving his current value has become the defining mission of his career. The window to secure his place in the league is narrowing, and the next few weeks may determine whether he gets another full season to make his case. His story resonates because it is not unique. It is the story of dozens of players on the margins of the NBA who work silently, away from the headlines, fighting just to keep playing the game they love. Waters fits a mold that teams value. 3-point shooting ability and willingness to guard multiple positions are exactly the traits coaching staffs prize in a 9th or 10th man. But the window to secure his place in the league is narrowing fast. For Waters, the best-case scenario is finding a team willing to give him 15 to 20 minutes per game in a clearly defined role. That kind of clarity could unlock the version of him that flashed during his better moments in Golden State. Without it, his career trajectory will continue moving in the wrong direction. The fight is now. The Golden State Warriors entered the 2026 offseason carrying an enormous amount of financial uncertainty, and even now, well into the summer, that uncertainty has not been fully resolved. The team still has 4 open roster spots, and more critically, they have yet to finalize a new contract with one of their most important veterans, Draymond Green. Green's situation became the central financial storyline of Golden State's offseason the moment he made a significant and somewhat surprising decision. Rather than pick up his $27.7 million player option for the 2026-27 season, Green opted out. On its surface, that might have seemed like a risky gamble for a player entering the later stages of his career. In reality, it was widely interpreted as a calculated team first move, one designed to give Golden State the salary cap flexibility they would need to make a serious run at LeBron James in free agency. The message from Green was clear. He was willing to sacrifice short-term financial security to give the Warriors a better chance of landing the biggest available star on the market. Reports have suggested that Green has been one of the most active voices inside the Warriors organization in recruiting James, personally pitching the idea of a partnership in San Francisco. That level of commitment to the cause speaks to something that has always defined Green's relationship with the franchise. He treats winning as the primary currency, not the paycheck. But as the LeBron James saga continues to drag on without resolution, the Warriors now face a new layer of complexity. If James does not come to Golden State, and at this point that remains very much a possibility, what happens to Green's contract? Will he still be willing to accept a significant pay cut even if the grand plan does not materialize? The timing of these negotiations matters enormously. The Warriors already have Stephen Curry's looming contract extension on the horizon, and both Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody carry significant salary commitments that limit the franchise's maneuvering room. Every dollar must be allocated with precision. Industry analysts and team observers have floated the idea that a best-case scenario for Golden State might involve Green signing a 2-year deal worth approximately $30 million in total, roughly $15 million per season. That number would represent a meaningful reduction from his previous salary level, but it would also reflect the reality of his current role on the team. Green remains valuable, but his production has declined from the peak years of his career, and the market for veterans of his profile is not what it once was. If the Warriors were to structure Green's deal in that range, they would theoretically retain enough flexibility to bring in James on a veteran contract while filling the remaining roster spots with veteran minimum signings. That math works, but only if Green is truly committed to the discount, and only if all the other pieces fall into place simultaneously. There is also the question of what happens to Green's contract demands if the James pursuit falls apart. A player of his profile and competitive mentality is unlikely to simply accept a hometown discount without getting something meaningful in return. Green has always been direct about his value to any organization, and he is not the type to silently undervalue himself. If the Warriors cannot deliver on the LeBron promise, Green may reasonably expect a more generous deal. The tension here is real. Golden State is operating on a thin margin between the salary cap and the first apron, the financial threshold that triggers significant restrictions on team-building moves. According to available reports, the Warriors have roughly $23 million in space between their current commitments and that first apron boundary. That number shifts dramatically depending on how Green's contract is structured. What complicates things further is the timeline. With the offseason already in its later stages and rosters around the league filling up, the Warriors cannot afford an extended standoff over Green's deal. Every day without resolution makes the construction of a competitive roster more difficult. Green has shown throughout his career that he understands the bigger picture better than most players. He knows that winning requires sacrifice, financial and otherwise. The 4-time champion has already demonstrated that willingness by opting out in the first place. The expectation inside the organization is that he will ultimately accommodate whatever structure makes the most sense for the team. But until ink is on paper, Green's contract situation remains one of the most significant unresolved items on the Warriors' offseason checklist, with major implications for everything else they are trying to accomplish this summer. The franchise and the player are clearly aligned on wanting to make it work. The challenge is finding a number that satisfies both sides while keeping Golden State's bigger ambitions alive. For months, the conventional wisdom surrounding LeBron James' free agency decision has painted the Golden State Warriors as a team with a critical flaw in their pitch. They are simply not a championship contending team right now. They have missed the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years and have been a fixture in the play-in tournament, finishing 10th, 7th, and 10th respectively in their last 3 regular seasons. That is not exactly the profile of a destination that appeals to a 4-time champion looking to compete for rings in what may be the final chapter of his career. But something changed on Thursday, July 16th, and it changed in the most public way possible. Speaking at Fanatics Fest alongside Indiana Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron James addressed his free agency situation directly, and in doing so, he offered a comment that might completely reframe how the Warriors' pitch should be understood. Not as a weakness, but as a potential selling point. James acknowledged that he had seen commentary on social media suggesting that wherever he signs next, his new team would likely end up in the play-in tournament and that he is no longer a difference-making force. Rather than dismissing that narrative, James embraced it as fuel. He framed it as motivation. He said it would be fun wherever he lands, and then made clear that being told he cannot elevate a struggling team is exactly the kind of external pressure that drives him. The 41-year-old specifically mentioned 3 destinations he has heard his name connected to: the Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Miami Heat. The fact that he publicly acknowledged Golden State, and did so in the context of a challenge he seems eager to take on, significantly elevated the perception of the Warriors as a legitimate destination. This matters because the conventional analysis of LeBron's free agency has focused heavily on his desire to win immediately. The Cleveland Cavaliers, as Eastern Conference finalists, have been seen as a natural landing spot precisely because they are already close to championship level. The Warriors, by contrast, are being rebuilt, dealing with injuries to key contributors, and still trying to finalize the roster structure for 2026-27. But James' comments suggest that the calculation may be more nuanced than a simple win now versus rebuild framework. There appears to be a version of LeBron James who is genuinely attracted to the idea of walking into a difficult situation and elevating it, of proving wrong everyone who wrote him off. The Warriors, with all their uncertainty, might actually fit that version better than a Cavaliers team that is already good without him. ESPN insider Shams Charania, speaking Thursday on the Pat McAfee Show, reinforced the fact that Golden State still has work to do. According to Charania, the Warriors remain behind other leading suitors in James' decision-making process, unless they can pull off a significant trade that changes the roster equation dramatically. The move Charania specifically alluded to would involve packaging the LeBron pitch with another star player, most notably Anthony Davis. The concept of a Big Four, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, is not a guaranteed championship formula and would not instantly make Golden State a title favorite, but it threads a specific needle, to giving James a genuine challenge while preserving the upside of legitimate contention if everything aligns. For now, the Warriors' strategy appears to involve patience. They are holding roster spots open, watching how the market develops, and waiting to see whether James gives them a real signal. The Draymond Green contract situation, the Jimmy Butler injury timeline, and the Moses Moody health questions all add layers of complexity to a situation that is already dense with moving parts. What Thursday's comments confirmed is that the Warriors remain in the conversation. LeBron James himself put them there, and he did it by suggesting that a challenge, not a comfort zone, might be exactly what he is looking for heading into the next phase of his legendary career. It is worth stepping back to understand why that dynamic is so compelling. LeBron James and Stephen Curry are the 2 most iconic players of their generation, and they have never shared a locker room. Their rivalry defined an era. Multiple NBA Finals matchups produced some of the most memorable basketball of the past 2 decades. The idea of those 2 competing together, rather than against each other, carries enormous weight beyond basketball strategy. For the Warriors, the motivation angle James introduced on Thursday is genuinely significant. Golden State is not asking him to join a dynasty. They are asking him to help build something, to transform a play-in team into a contender. James' public response to criticism suggesting he can no longer make a difference indicates he may actually prefer the harder road. The offseason is far from over. Golden State still needs to finalize roster decisions, navigate luxury tax thresholds, and make the bold move that Shams Charania says James is waiting to see. Time is still on the Warriors' side, but the window will not stay open forever. The pressure is real, but so is the opportunity, and LeBron James just confirmed the Warriors are very much still in the picture.